Can you believe I walk around outside like this? And it's not only acceptable, but it's encouraged. Oh. Hey, it's Thursday. It's the Thursday show. It's the double wide making up for not doing a show Wednesday show. Yeah. So there's no construction going on outside today. It's raining, so even if they had something planned, it probably wouldn't be getting done. So, yeah, how's everybody doing? I'm here, and there are greenskins all over my table, and I can call them greenskins now because I've put some green on their skin. So I did that so I can prep them up. And today I'm going to be doing a little bit of highlighting of orc flesh, and I'm going to show you how I what would you say? Show you how I mass produce orc flesh on a large amount of models. So we'll be doing that. Ooh, how'd that Inquisition symbol get in there? They're always watching, man. That was not part of the. I have to be careful, you know. Yeah, nothing but orcs. Orcs. So yeah, so it is ORKTOBER. We are now halfway through ORKTOBER. We're at the halfway point of the month, and I'm still painting orcs. And I'm realizing the amount of orcs I want to get painted in this month is, if you see the follow me on Instagram, you'll see the photo I posted. It's a lot of orcs. So I'm starting to think I might need to be hedging my expectations for myself on this. I have these. I want to get my blood axes as much as done as possible. We'll see and of course, what I do want to finish today. Concurrent viewers 0. How insulting. Is, let's go to the overhead here. De Commissar. So you can see I put some green on him, and you can see some of the orc boys pittering around here. I have painted green, and I put the red on them. The green for the skin has been washed with soft tone. So Army Painter soft tone is what I washed the meadow green that I use. And this is a brighter green than I use for my fantasy orcs. So if you see my old 4th edition, 3rd edition fantasy orc boys, the skin I use on them is a bit more drab. This I wanted something a little bit brighter. And here's the Commissar, and he's getting to the point where he's almost done. And so I'm going to be working on him in a little bit. And I found these. So these are a couple of trolls. I was showing them to someone as we were comparing trolls. Because that's what you do. You compare trolls. So, yeah. Let me sort of get myself situated here. My lumbar support and all that good stuff. And pull myself in. And start painting. So, I'm going to start with the orcs, because I think what I want to do on these guys is, before I paint the flesh, I'll probably wash the red. So I just put the red down, and some of them have a lot more red than others. This guy's quite red, but I kind of like that. So I'm going to show you guys how I do my secret weapon, red-black, and how I use it to pre-shade, shade, reverse highlight, whatever you want to call it. I call this like the pre-shade, because you are shading, but it's before you're sort of... I guess pre-shading would be your base coat, but I'm not. I'm shading my base coat. I'm providing the, I don't know. Can't get wrapped up in terminology, man. It's ultimately not important. And this may or may not work out the way I want, because I did just refresh my wet palette, and so it's pretty wet, and I think I just put a bunch of that on there that is going to have too much moisture in it for what I want to do with it. It's going to be too watered down. But we'll see. We'll see how it... that's all right. It's not great. I should probably just use a dry palette for this. All this is going to mean is that it's going to be less. No, it's perfect. We'll go with that. I think what I will do, though, is I need to be able to mix. So, kind of an odd fellow here. Let's not do that then. Quinn in the chat. Hey, hey. LOL. Nice name drop with secret weapon there. Hey, man. You got to use the tools you got. Oh, and how do you like my background, Quinn? Yeah, I don't have one. Sorry. Quinn gave me some feedback yesterday that he didn't like the surface that I was painting on. And I couldn't really figure out what I wanted to do with it. So I'll let you guys decide. What do I do with it? Do you just want something plain and flat? Like this? This is the remnants of me priming something. So I'll take this guy. I think I will zoom in just a tiny bit more for you guys. There we go. And we'll do some washing. So yeah, this is the secret weapon washes, and I really like them a lot. They're a different consistency to Games Workshop washes. They go on differently, and but I really like the way that the way that it shades this red is really nice. At the end of the day, that's what's important, right? Is how it's going to do that. You can see this guy's got quite a bit on him. So we're doing this knee pad now, and then this other foot. So this guy's going to be a knob leading one of my house squads, I believe, is what I'm going to use him as. I like his pointing, and yeah, he's just got a bolter, but you know, whatever. Could be a custom bolter of some kind. Custom weapon. I was looking over the rules for making orc armies in a Rogue Trader, of all places, for making like an orc, for rolling up an orc squad. And you've got a 90% chance of rolling a bolter for your orc, and you've got a 10% chance that you roll an autogun. So if you roll an autogun, yeah, sorry about your luck, because autoguns are nowhere near as good as bolters. But and you can do that for like a whole squad or for a single model. And then there's like percentile chances that you can get other things. It's pretty neat. So I think one of the first bits of content that I want to do in terms of Rogue Trader stuff is actually playing straight out of the very first Rogue Trader book, because if you had no other books. So I think that would be kind of fun. It's entirely possible that me starting early like this means that the usual ne'er-do-wells are not here around. There we go. Oops. See, I'm missing my red dot now. How am I supposed to keep these guys in the center of the camera? It's all your fault, Quinn. I'm gonna move this and get my red dot back. Yeah, one of the trickiest things I've discovered is painting on camera and staying consistent with it, and getting that right. Ooh, I gave this guy a red skull for his belt buckle. I feel like I've painted this model 3 times now, because I have 2 that are based on this dummy, and then I have another one with the flamer that is also based on this, and I feel like I've painted this one model, because a lot of the details are the same. It's just one's got a flamer, one's got a heavy bolter, and one's got a bolter. Although I discovered that the one that has a flamer, according to the first publication that he became, hey, Inquisitor Zavak, bolters should be really good, auto guns are las guns. Put another red dot on the white paper. You guys really don't like this? I mean, it's just well worn. I mean, this is some paint, and this is where the laminate, the white laminate, has rubbed off. It's got character, doesn't it? Yeah, I need the red dot, but it's not like I don't have more red dots that I could use, so I could put down anything. So you guys figure it out and tell me what you want me to put down. I can paint it. I could paint this as well. Like I could paint it black or something. Paint it black. Some Rolling Stones. that. See, this is the other one. So this is the bolter one. This is the heavy bolter one, and I have one that has a, what was I saying? He's got a flamer, but according to the first publication, the first advertisement where they actually would give them names, he's actually listed as having a las gun, which I thought was funny. Let's see if I can dig him out here. Whoops. There he is. Red cap. So this is listed as a las gun. I just did it as a flamer. I don't know. Because, yeah. But there was almost zero chance you could get a las gun in Rogue Trader. Actually, I don't even think you can get... I don't think orcs can get las guns in Rogue Trader. On the random rolling chart. It's literally like they have a 90% chance of a bolter and a 10% chance of an auto gun, and that's it. Those are the only two weapons they get. I like this guy's red cap. So... yeah, I stumbled on this combo. I think I've said it many times before. Doing this red when I first started figuring out the red I was going to do for my Iron Jaws for my Age of Sigmar. Oryx, Iron Jaws, whatever they're called now. What are they called? The Wog clans? The Wog... No, the Wog... I don't know. Wog tribes? Tribes of the Wog? Whatever. Age of Sigmar is a silly game. Not that it's not fun. It's just not the fun I want to be playing right now. I don't know why, but I'm really, really hyped to play like 30-year-old Rogue Trader. So you can see I'm just kind of pooling it on here and trying to get it to pool around any of the details. I put it underneath here so that it helps create a transition shadow between his face and his mask. And look at this silly little mask. Look at this silly little helmet. It's so... it makes him look like a red cap, like some kind of a weird gnome. Well, orcs do sort of come from folklore, sort of. That's a show I'm working on. I'm not gonna discuss much of it right now, but something I want to do closer to the end of the month is actually talk about some orcs. Have a sit and chat about orcs and where they came from and what they sort of represent in like various folklores. And are there orc equivalents in other folklores? Of course there are, and that's because they're representative of a story archetype, right? They're sort of representative of... it's a study on the nature of evil. I don't know, not really. So the stuff I didn't do red on this guy, I'm probably going to do like a gray, or either like a metal or like a greeny gray, because these guys are still blood axes, so they're still kind of... and then I decided that once I figure out who's going to be in which squad, like which model's going to be in which squad, I'm going to give them all... Each house will have its own custom camo pattern of some kind, which I'll paint on their fatigues. So like I'll do some sort of camo thing on them. I don't know, something simple. Something simple that doesn't challenge me too much to the point where I decide I'm not going to do it because it's just too much work. So again, figuring out what that simple thing is. And I did this knee pad red because it kind of looks like a face. If you look at the knee pad, it kind of looks like he's got a little angry face on his... speaking of angry little faces, Nightmare Miniatures just launched a new Kickstarter, and I thought I'd give it a shout out because it's called... Are they called Nashers? Or anyways, it's squigs. It's a whole bunch of squigs. This is part of the Greenskin Wars series, and I have a bunch of hobgoblins and bugbears from that. And the amazing thing is that it's Kev Adams, the Goblin Master sculptor himself, who sculpted a large amount. Well, sculpted the model I'm painting right now. How's about that? So they did some Space Raiders, which I have the Gretchen for. And they did a bunch of fantasy orcs, fantasy hobgoblins, and they're absolutely stunning models. So I would go check it out. Just type in Greenskin Wars, Google that, and check out the Kickstarter because it's pretty awesome looking models. And I'm gonna be getting some of those, some of them squigs for sure because they're cool squigs, and they have like little squigs too. And there's like a squig herder that's a guy riding a crazy little like Puff the Magic Dragon looking thing. It looks like something out of a Brian Froud painting, which has me very excited because Brian Froud is one of my favorite fantasy art. If you want someone to draw you some fairies or goblins or grumpkins and snarks, get Brian Froud to do it. If you don't know who Brian Froud is, Dark Crystal is essentially like based on, I think he did the majority of the conceptual work for a lot of it. So Age of Copyrightable Names. Yeah, Uruk. And then what do they call goblins now? They call them grots now. Or no, gits. Shit. I've got a what are they? Gloomspite gits. So I have a bunch of Gloomspite gits. I have a bunch of the squigs because I love squigs. One of the things I love about orcs is how much I love squigs. And I have lots of squigs. I'm just looking around to see if I have squigs. I have a bag of squigs here. Hey, there's a squig. Is this a squig my kid painted? No, this is a squig I base coated. No, maybe my kid did base coat this. Anyways, I've just got random squigs everywhere. The squigs are cool. And squigs will be, here's a runt selling squigs. He's got a little basket full of yummy, delicious squigs. So yeah, he's going to be in this army somewhere. Mainly when I get to the freebooter stuff. I'm trying to keep things within their eras, even though it's all Rogue Trader. There's sort of 3 distinct eras of Rogue Trader. There's early Rogue Trader, which is basically just Rogue Trader, and that covers probably Book of the Astronomicon as well. And then I think like the middle zone is when you start getting into around like White Dwarf 100 is sort of like where it starts, you know, building. And then you get the release of the 1.5, which is the battle manual and the what's it called? The battle manual and the vehicle manual, which essentially rewrote the rules of the game. At that point, you didn't actually need the Rogue Trader book to play 40K. If you had the battle manual and the vehicle manual, you were pretty much had the rules to the game, but you needed all the army lists and stuff, which would be in like the compendium, the compilation, which were basically collections of White Dwarf articles, because back in those days they would put preview rules and official rules. I mean, they were official, but they were official preview rules. They put them into the White Dwarf, and then later those would be compiled into a publication. Even the battle manual and vehicle manual rules, I'm pretty sure were in White Dwarf before the actual books were released. But once the books were released, then you had sort of the official stuff. Like, I'm trying to think, where do you get, what publication has the Rogue Trader Tyranid Army list in it? Was it ever collected into something? You would need to probably find the White Dwarf that it was published in. If you actually wanted to play Tyranids in Rogue Trader, you would need to find the White Dwarf that has the rules, because I don't think those rules ever got compiled in anything. The Genestealer cults were in the compilation, and along with the Eldar. The Eldar, when they added in the Craft World stuff, so when they added in the Aspect Warriors and the Warlocks and the Farseers and that stuff, that was White Dwarf 126 and White Dwarf 127, which is in the compilation. But I'm trying to think, where do you get the Tyranid army list for Rogue Trader? It would have to be a White Dwarf. If you can't tell between... Gets to the Gloomspite variety. If you can't tell between base coats, she's doing real well. I don't know. So there we go. And so this guy will have like a different color. So basically where I didn't put red, I'm going to use a different color. And then when I get around to painting their guns, I'll probably do... I want to do some colors on their guns like you saw, like this guy. I did his flamer yellow. I just think it looks cool. It's got like a little casing on it of some kind. And they're orcs, so they want their stuff to look flash, because that's important to them. So while all that's curing, let's grab, where are you at? Let's grab the Commissar and figure him out. So what I'm going to do with the Commissar here is I'm going to put some soft tone on his face, on his flesh. so you can see how that do. So, ooh, this wet palette is wet right now. It's just, that's fine. Let's move that. Just move these guys out of the way because we got the big handle coming through here. So yeah, so I'm just gonna start in his face, and I'm gonna go right to the back with the tip of my brush to try and punch some wash back into the shadows there to create shadows, essentially. And then around here, and get his chin, and then under his chin as well. So let's get under there with some paint, and then kind of just place the wash where you want it to sit. And you can see I want it to sit under his lip, and then up on the top here I want it to run down his upper lip, under his nose, and you just want to have some wash in there because that's just, when you go back over that, you're going to go back over that with thin layers of highlight, and you want them to be translucent so that all this shows through. All right, easy peasy lemon squeezy. And then this arm as well, we'll throw some wash on. Paying special attention to the back of the hand because that's where your knuckles are, and that's where you start to get some transitions, so you want to pick that out. And again, just getting the wash to sit where you want it to sit. And then you just let gravity, when you put them down to dry, you just let gravity do the rest. It might be hard to see when I'm just getting around the back of his hand here, where he's got this twin-linked heavy bolter on a pistol grip. Because twin-linked heavy bolters should always be on pistol grips if you're an orc. That's just how you roll, right? Just get a bit around in. Let's see, right. Got that top knuckle as well. There we go. So we'll put that down, let that cure. And I've got a bit of this wash left, so I'm actually going to use it to wash the driver right now, just so that waste not, want not, while it's here. Quick and dirty wash just on his flesh. Again, I'm just trying to create shadows and transition between the various details on him. I like that this driver, it was written into the original rules for these that you could give the driver a plasma pistol, and I'm sure that they just wrote that in because when Kev turned in all these sculpts for all these models, this one just happened to have a plasma pistol, and they were like, okay, well, I guess he's got to be able to get a plasma pistol then. So yes, kids, the drivers of your buggies can get plasma pistols up to a certain point. It comes to a point where they lose that ability. And that's just the nature of rules, and rules changing and additions changing, right? The buggy and the orc war bike existed in the rules for a long time, right up until 7th edition. The 8th edition Orc Codex replaced them with all these new vehicles. And the War Track, the Scorcha, and the buggy are no longer in the Codex. I mean, they have the new vehicles, which are really cool. And believe me, there's been plenty of time where I've been tempted to start a new 40k orc army. In fact, doing this, painting all these old models, is probably the resolution I need to not be doing a 9th edition Space Orc army, because I think the new Space Orcs, like, I love orcs. I love Space Orcs throughout time and history. I've always loved orcs. And I have, like I said, I have an Age of Sigmar army because I saw those Iron Jaws and was like, well, they just sucked me back in, because it's not just orcs, but it's what I like about that Iron Jaw army is it's like taking the Black Orcs, and in like 7th and 8th edition for Fantasy Battle, my army was really built around Grimgor Ironhide and his Black Orcs. So I just like that idea of like the apex of the orcs, and Iron Jaws are essentially the apex of orcs because everything in Age of Sigmar is, the tropes are just turned up to 11, right? They go up to 11. Orcs 9th edition would be great if they just said weapons. They said weapons available to all. I'm not sure what that means. Orcs are black orcs, dialed times 11. Isn't that what I said? Isn't that what I just said? Yeah, no, for sure. So that's what, and so for me, when I wasn't going to do Age of Sigmar orcs, I was going to do, start doing some greens now is what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to turn my wet palette around here, get a nice little fresh patch here. Let's put it this way. Sorry guys, I'm just going to move you out of the way. Too many orcs. They shouldn't be here anyways. They should be over there. But I've got other stuff over there now. My desk's becoming a mess. One of those things that you constantly fight against is the clutter. Right? And I still to this day, I fight the clutter. So, but here we go. So this way you can see part of my palette because I will do the green highlighting here. So too many orcs, no such thing. I do not have too many orcs, but man, do I have a lot of orcs. So I'm gonna get out my, where is it? I need the golden, there we go. So this is how we highlight orc skin. Take my meadow green, which was my base coat, take my golden skin, which is what I'm going to use to blend up to. So give myself a little squirt of the meadow green. And yeah, these Reaper Master Series paints, available at meeplemart.com. Fantastic range of paints. I got to get down to get a few more. I don't know what colors I need though, so I kind of probably have to make a list. Come on, give me some more flesh than that. Give me more flesh. There you go. There's a... Sorry, I'm just clearing the nozzle. There we go. That's what I needed. All right, now I'm going to pick a brush. You ready for the brush? You prepared to weep? Wow, I'm looking at my brush. I'm like, man, it may be time for a refresh on you know what? I'm just going to use the same brush I was using. I'm going to use old half a brush here. My good old trusty rusty Winsor Newton miniature size 3, which is now, I guess, a size 1.5 because half the bristles have worn off. And you can see. So, we're getting plugs now. Yeah, well, you know, hey, I do what I can. I'm not receiving any compensation for this. This is just mental therapy for myself, really. So you can see I've got my meadow green and my flesh, and I'm taking mostly meadow green. I've thrown a little bit of flesh in here just to lighten it up a bit because I don't need to go back over it with exactly the same color. And then just a little bit of paper towel down here so that I have somewhere to wipe it off. Make sure, again, it's about controlling the amount of paint on the brush. And pretty simple. So I've got to do all these guys. I got to do them fast. So it's not really, I lost my train of thought there as I actually start paying attention to painting. That's another thing. You think painting and talking is easy to do at the same time? So, and again, I'm just going over the raised areas, picking them out with my slightly lightened up color. Putting down paint, essentially just where it needs to be, over. And then we'll get the hands. Each finger. Right, knowing that I'm going to be going over this again at least one more time. Possibly, and we'll see. We'll see how they all come out. Again, this is more about speed painting. When I'm done these, I will go over to De Commissar, and when I do his face, I'll be giving it a bit more attention than normal. So how's okay. So still figuring out, you know, looking up to look at the chat every now and then. I realized my latency issues were probably a problem. So it's actually on probably a bit more of a delay than it would normally be. in terms of my video going out to you, only because I realized that there were latency issues that were possibly causing quality issues on your end. So I've stepped it down a notch, which should increase the video quality that you guys are receiving. However, it means that there's more processing time, so it's on a bit more of a delay. So what I'm saying right now, you guys will see in the future. I'll tell you when I see it. No, I'm frozen. Screen's frozen. Now, so there. So I just said now when I said now before. So that's the delay that we're on. In case you were wondering, I was wondering. It was interesting to me. So now I'm going to go on to the next guy. And again, I'm just doing the same thing. I'm just going back over, helping to pick it out so that we're establishing the shadows. You can see fingers are particularly important to define, so you want to have nice, clearly defined shadows in between the fingers. Because remember, these are models that you are painting to sit on the tabletop. And when they're on the tabletop, they're generally about 18 to 24 inches away from your face most of the time, and probably more than that most of the time. So you want them to look good, but they don't have to be you don't have to be overly concerned with perfection. Lower your expectations to the point where they're already met. So paint this guy's ear up again, because I painted over it a bit with the when I was doing the back, I was doing the shoulder pads, which I'm going to have to fix again. Two next. So again, just fingers. Back of the hand here. And you want to use as close to your base color as possible, because that's really, like, you pick that color for a reason. All right. Your highlights, you know, when you lighten it up, if you've got too much, if the colors that you've picked don't work well together, your transitions don't look right, right? So figuring out that this golden skin works really well with these types of greens was good. And because I did try some other fleshes, because I have quite a few other fleshes. I have like elf fleshes, and this is called Bright Skin, which I actually use the bright skin on goblins. So, whoa, we're even. Is the news delay in case we start swearing? No, there's no delay on the chat as far as I know. It's in case I start swearing. But no, the delay is because it gives YouTube more time to process the signal, which means that you guys should be seeing a better quality picture. Now, I don't have it on the ultra lowest latency. What the ultra lowest latency says actually is that it's not recommended if you intend to interact with your audience because of the delay. So I could go to ultra low, but I think we're doing okay. I'll ask you guys how it looks. If the picture looks good to you, let me know. If the picture looks crappy, I'll continue to blame my camera, because I don't think this camera was meant for this functionality. But the camera that I want to upgrade to is not this year for sure. It's I would get a mirrorless Sony, which has a pass-through function for video, which for the overhead would be the most ideal camera, in my opinion. From what my research has told me, that's the way to go. because their sensors are extremely high quality because it's Sony, and and Sony tends to Sony tends to have features that other cameras don't have as like a default, right? They're almost like the reverse Apple, where Apple will hold shit back. Sony will just pack shit into things because they like to say that they can, and it's. Quinn says the color you're using now look very similar to the Reaper olive green. Might be able to save yourself a mixing step. Like blending from my base coat. I think I have the Reaper olive green. This is meadow green. This is another Reaper green I have. This is turf green. That's way too green. I'm pretty sure I have Reaper olive green. Hey, look at that, 9035. There we go. Yeah, I have Reaper olive green. I use this on goblin skin. It's a bit more olive, and it makes the goblins, and I actually use it with the bright skin for highlighting, and it makes them look more cherry and cheery and goblin-y, right? Yeah, again, it's just about finding a preference and understanding the paints in your collection and how they work with the other paints in their collection. So yeah, there you go. There's some useless wisdom. It's all about the paints in your collection and knowing what color the paints in your collection are. It's mission critical to painting miniatures, is knowing what paints you have and how they look and how they interact with each other, right? Because you will get interesting interactions that I'll get sometimes, especially mixing brands. Like adding Vallejo game color to anything will immediately just make it glossy. There seems to be a lot of like that kind of thick, juicy gloss medium in Vallejo games. So I tend to use Vallejo games for like heavy work, like doing basing. I use Vallejo game colors. Like most of my bases are this, like that's the base coat I use, and this is like a thick. It's almost like a stew. There's so much thickness to it. Of course you have it. I can definitely see that as goblin skin. Yeah. There's a lot. I own a lot of Reaper greens. I own a lot of Reapers. They quickly become my favorite paint range to paint with, as you can see, because I'm pretty much painting this orc army almost entirely with Reaper. Make sure we get his brow there. Orc brows are always something to pay attention to. You want to make sure that you're laying it on, because they've got those big Neanderthal, Cro-Magnon, whatever brows. So Quinn, I hear you have Harlequins. This is my new thing now. Is I'm just going to call people out on my stream and convince them to paint really old models. So I thought you painted a bunch of old school Harlequins for Shadow War Armageddon. So I thought you had a bunch of Harlequins painted. If that's not the case, I would recommend you paint more Harlequins. I'm going to paint some Harlequins at some point. I've got a ton of old Harlequins. So when I get around to doing Eldar, which will not be happening in ORKTOBER, it will not be happening in November, because I have a feeling I may still be painting orcs in November, but I'm going to take a break from the orcs at the beginning of November to paint a bunch of other stuff. Stuff related to these orcs, because you need op-4s, right? You need opposing forces. So who are these orcs going to fight? Stay tuned to the Eternal Chronicles to find out who these orcs will be going to battle with. If you've been watching the stream, you should probably already know. you should have an idea of where I'm taking my little mini fixation, my little mini dive here into nostalgia. I guess building an entire Rogue Trader orc army is not really a mini dive into nostalgia. It's a full-on headlong leap into nostalgia. because this is an army that I have wanted to do for 30 years. I've wanted to do this exact army that I'm doing, with pretty much the exact models that I wanted to do it with. I wanted to fill out the bulk of my boys with these one pieces because I had some, and they were still readily available, even though GW had started to release the newer Here We Go stuff. So basically the Here We Go era orcs, which are the orcs with no arms. So he's an Here We Go era orc because he's the model comes with missing arms, right? You need plastic arms for him. So I've got a giant bag of Here We Go orcs here. Here we go, orcs. Yeah, there's a whole lot of guys in there. And that's really when they defined the orc culture. That's culture with a K. And yeah, so here we go, here we go, here we go. Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. Here we go through the cosmos. Orc battle chants. Good times. I picked up the audio book for The Brutally Cunning, which is the orc novel from the point of view of the orcs. It's not all from the point of view of the orcs. There's a lot of it. So this guy's hand has got a bit of a miscast on it. You can see here. So it looks all nasty and scraggly. So I'm actually going to paint that up like a scar because his hand is like mangled. But anyways, so yeah, so Brutally Cunning. I picked up the audio book on Audible. Spent a whole credit on it, and it's pretty lame. I don't know. There's some good parts, but when you realize that like this guy's been told to write from the perspective of an orc, so he's trying to like squeeze in as many orky things as possible, where he's like, oh, and then the boys like to go into the warp because they know the Gorkamork like to mess with them in the warp. And that one time I ended up seeing out of his kneecaps for a while, and it like kind of like silly. It's silly. But what do you want for a book that's supposed to be written from the perspective of an orc? To be silly. So would I recommend it? Well, it's about orcs. And there's parts of it that are... How many Harlequins are needed for a Rogue Trader force? Not a lot. And not the way that I'm going to be doing my Rogue Trader games, because I want these to be smaller skirmish games. More narrative-based. So it'll be less... but obviously there will be games that... but Harlequins can be very expensive. I think a great Harlequin that's like a level 4 Psyker is like 400 and something points. Like you're dealing with some of the best fighters in the game. Probably some of the most powerful warriors in the game. I remember playing a game with my buddy Nico where it was my Harlequins fighting his Imperial Guard, and he had these like human Imperial Guard, and we were playing lengthwise on the table. My Harlequin started at the other end of the table and had to like run and dodge through like all the like bush and stuff, and his Imperial Guard just sat there and just mowed me down. But as soon as whatever Harlequins I had that did survive made it to him, they just ripped the crap out of those poor little humans. I bet Nico remembers that game. If he was here, he could say that he remembers the game. How's this doing? Okay. Next. This guy's got a lot of red on him. So I think I'm calling my orcs like the Red Brigade because they're revolutionaries. They've come to Logan's World to help an Inquisitor start a revolution, and they may not know that that's why they're here. They may have just been told that there's good fighting to be had. I'm pretty sure that's what the Inquisitor told him. It's just like, it's gonna be great. Lots of loot. Big old open planet for you to lots of humans. That'll give you a good scrap. Because that's basically his mission right now. It's to start a revolution on the planet. Because it's all about the control of those natural resources, right? So what Logan's World is it's one of the Lost Worlds. So the Lost Worlds are human planets that exist on the edge of the Eye of Terror. So they're constantly being assailed by warp storms. because they're not in the Eye of Terror. They're basically planets and systems that are floating at the edge of the Eye of Terror. And they talk about it in the fluff that, like, they can be blocked off for, like, years at a time. You cannot access them. But every now and then, the Eye of Terror blinks, and the warp storms abate, and resupplies, all the natural resources that have been mined out of the planet are taken away, and all the supplies that you need to continue your mining operation come in. And then the warp storms creep up again, and the planet's isolated for up to a decade, sometimes longer, right? Sometimes it's random. So Logan's World is one of these resource-rich planets that sits on the edge of the Eye of Terror. And it's basically like a Mad Max world. But so it'll be run by mining guilds, but they employ mercenaries and other nefarious things. And the Imperium doesn't really have much of an authority there. Like, they'll come in when they can, when they're able to access the planet, but they tend to bug out because they don't want to be stuck on the planet. They'll just let the planetary governor, who's basically just a puppet and a figurehead and has no real power. This is more my expanded lore, because the lore in the Rogue Trader book for Logan's World, there isn't much of it. It just sort of gives you the outline of what it is that you're dealing with. So I'm kind of filling in my own lore, because I'm going to base my narrative games in and around this planet, and sort of what happens when it's isolated and what happens when it's not isolated, right? And it's going to involve everything Rogue Trader-ish, eventually. The plan is to start, obviously, with orcs, and then add in some humans, because those are the human denizens of Logan's World, who are basically like mercenaries or miners. And then from there, you add in more orcs, and more orcs, and more orcs. And then some Eldar. And then who knows what could show up. I mean, after all, you're sitting on the edge of the Eye of Terror, right? What might happen when the eye blinks, and what might the eye spit out into reality that could potentially arrive on Logan's World and throw a monkey wrench in everyone's plans, right? So I've been sort of working on writing a bit of short fiction to build into this narrative for playing these Rogue Trader games. So yeah. So to answer your question, Quinn, as many as you have painted, really. If you don't have a lot painted, then you just don't do a lot, right? You do a scenario that you build a narrative scenario, because I really want the narrative to drive what's used, So, and you need like a character that is essentially like acts as your avatar in the story. So a particular game could be centered on that character. It could be centered on a different player's character, right? But it's sort of chapters in their story, and then all the chapters are sort of brought together to make one cohesive narrative. And that's the way I prefer to play narrative games, and that's the way I always used to play Rogue Trader. Was we would build these nice little fun narratives, these little stories around our silly little games. I remember one memorable game was me and I had 3 Gene Stealers, and Nico, I gave him a couple of guardsmen, a commissar, and an inquisitor. And it was pitch black, because they were in a tunnel or in some sort of pitch black thing, and I had like Gene Stealers, and it was basically me attacking him with Gene Stealers and him dying, because we didn't really realize that there was balance wasn't really my consideration. My consideration was just to like kill these inquisitors with Gene Stealers, kill these humans with Gene Stealers. And to this day, it was a memorable game, even though it was totally one-sided, and it was completely unfairly balanced for the Gene Stealers. It was still a fun game, and to this day, we both remember that game, particularly because it was lopsided, because it wasn't balanced, right? So there we go. So it's heresy then? Everything is heresy. I mean, let's just call a heretic here. Everything is heresy. So just got to do the back of this guy's hand. So yeah, so this is just assembly lining through these models. Get their skin done. There we go. So I've got about 8 left, including this guy that's in my hand right now. This guy's got bull nose. And you can see, like, here there's some real loss of detail in this older model, so you kind of got to, like, use the paint to sort of pick things out a bit better, like around the eye and stuff. Again, how many orc knuckles have I painted in my life? So many. No. So it's 12:10, so it's now 10 minutes after my old official starting time. There we go. Whoa, I got a lot of these guys, eh? This guy's got no shirt. I got a little. So yeah, I started early today because I wanted to get painting, and because I didn't do a show yesterday because of the sandblasting. So you're gonna get a nice double dose today, probably. I may have to get up and fix something though. So what else is new other than me continuing to paint orcs? What's going on in the news? I don't even want to talk about the news, man. News these days, eh? Alright, so after I paint this guy, I'm just going to stand up briefly for a second and fix something. Look at this ear. So yeah, so I'm gonna call my orcs like the Red Brigade boys or something, because they are blood axes, and they've got a penchant for red. So maybe everyone would say, "Oh, those evil sons." No, I would do them evil sons, you know, if I had enough vehicles. But evil sons, you kind of need like a lot of bikes, and I've got buggies, I've got war tracks and stuff. But I don't have a lot of bikes, so just give me 1 second here while I adjust something. Hey, I'm back. Oh, that's better. That's better. I don't know if you guys can hear that. It's sitting in it's my ambient sound is like idling around -50 dBs. Yeah, you guys can probably hear that. I need like a windsock for my mic or something, because I've got my fan on right now because for some reason it's really warm in here. Probably because I haven't had the window open in a while because of the sandblasting, obviously. And all these lights that I'm sitting under can be quite hot. So unfortunately the fan becomes a necessity. But it could be like the music from yesterday, right? I can hear it, but you guys can't hear it. So hopefully that's the case. I like this model. I don't know why. It's just I like his classic orky face. So. Quinn in the chat says double feature is good because I have a lot of terrain to work on, and I guess the potential Harlequin Force hat. What kind of terrain you working on? You painting Necromunda terrain? Because I've got a whole lot of Necromunda terrain sitting on the shelf here that I need to paint. It's all primed and it's been sprayed with like a metallic spray paint. Some bolt gun and then some crappy Rust-Oleum stuff that I got from Canadian Tire. So it's all waiting for me to finish it. Because 2021, the moment we're allowed to, I don't know, interact again. I don't know where we're at. Campaign Crusade 2021. Elbow. I like this. I always like painting. I like the fact that orcs, their spines kind of stick out. Paint their spinal cord here. And then a little under there. And some shoulder here. Some arm here. This guy's got a pretty silly little face. There's so much character in Kev White's. Kev Adams. Kev White's a different miniature sculptor. There's a lot of character in Kev White's stuff too. But Kev Adams' orcs here. Just, you know. I found that after 3rd edition, 40K, basically it was late 5th edition when they started doing all the regiment boxes for Fantasy Battle. So the Orc Regiment box, the Night Goblin Regiment box, had a different sculptor doing them. And I loved them at the time, but looking back in hindsight now, I realize just how much more I love these models. This different look to them is... There you go. And I like to leave a few brush strokes because it looks like, you know, skin. Let's thin this a bit, and then I'm just gonna go over the top here and make that little shadow on the top of his scalp there even smaller, even more less pronounced. That looks good. All right, 4 more. This guy's a doozy because he got a belly. I love this model. I love this model so much. There's another version of this where he's like holding his head, like he's can't think very well or something. And I used to own that one. I don't think I owned this particular one, but I own this particular one now, but I had the other one previous. It's like holding onto his head. And there's another version, there's another couple of versions that use this dummy, that use these robotic legs, because as you can see. So I've done the knee pads in the red, and then I'll do the rest of the legs in like a metallic, like a rusty metallic or something. All right, so they look like bionic legs. Like he's lost his legs. Oi, I lost me legs, but I got new robot ones. Went to the dock, man. Went to the pain boy. Got the hookup. Got some new legs. So there we go. And the hand, of course. Painting orc hands. Oh, Warcry. Oh, Mega Gargants dropped this weekend. Yeah, you know what? It feels like something I should be really excited for. Right now I can't justify the expense. And right now I mean, I will get one eventually. It's not going anywhere, that kit. So I definitely want to build and paint that. Because one day I want to play Age of Sigmar again. I mean, I've got a ton of Age of Sigmar stuff. I have a massive amount of Age of Sigmar stuff, actually. Mostly painted. I have a bunch of unpainted Sigmar stuff, too. That will probably remain unpainted. Because it's not orcs. I came close to getting those new elves. The Lumineth Realm Lords. But there was just something about them that... I don't know. I didn't care for it in some ways. Like, I think the models look dope. Those spears look like a huge pain in the butt to try and keep from breaking. The cavalry's cool. The cavalry remind me of a Rodney Matthews painting. The characters are cool. I'm not a huge fan of the new Teclis, only because, again, that model is ridiculous. So you're painting Warcry terrain, doing up the Defiled Ruins right now. Cool. I have a fully painted set of the Warcry terrain that came in the box. I painted up the entire box. Didn't paint the gangs in the box yet. I painted the Realm of Light guys. The Chaos Cult from the Realm of Light. What are they called? Anyways, they're like the Grand Manipulators. They're the ones who don't look like Chaos Thugs. They look like they're the ninja ones, the ones that hop around, and it'll come to me. Cypher Lords. That's it. The Cypher Lords. That's what I have. I have a fully painted Cypher Lords gang. I played a bunch of Warcry, and then kind of forgot about it because the game didn't have the kind of depth I was hoping it would have. My hope, and I realized that this was probably a fool's hope, was that it would be the Age of Sigmar version of Necromunda, which it turned out to not be. It turned out to be something a little bit more slick, but in its slickness, it doesn't have as much depth because it needs to be slick. Right? It needs to be something that's quick, that promotes bold moves, which I like about the game, is that the game does sort of reward attempting to do crazy things. It reminds me a lot of Blood Bowl in ways, because you're kind of rolling to make moves, and positioning your models is very important. Instead of them being positioned on a grid, though, it's like sort of like expressing your zones of control kind of thing. So it's a fun game, and I played a bunch of it. Once I sort of finished the arc of my Cypher Lords, it was like, well, where do I go from here? Like, I understand you unlock these things, and then your gang gets better, and that's the whole principle that you want out of a skirmishy game, because you want something with a real RP experience. And the setting is cool, like the whole like 8 points as like this Nexus city, or this Nexus zone that is attached to all the realms kind of thing. Like, that's cool. And that's where Archeon should be, right? Like, if he was going to be anywhere. So I like that. I like the setting of it. The models are spectacular. And really, the Slaves to Darkness... is it called Slaves to Darkness? What army book? The Chaos Warrior... Is it called Slaves to Darkness? The Battle Tome? Or is it something else? Is it called, like, Godsworn Pact, or I don't know. It's been a while since I've actually followed Age of Sigmar, unfortunately. More than superficially. Like, I've followed the Gargants because that's relevant to my interests. And it looks like the Gargants are exactly what we thought they would be, which is knights in Age of Sigmar, right? Titans. And that's cool. I dig it. Alright. So you can see I'm kind of... Ugh. When you painted as many orcs as I have, kids, the painting, it almost becomes like rote. You're not even really thinking. You just know where you've got to stick some paint. And it's the same thing with, you know, people who paint tons and tons of Space Marines. Like, I still to this day, and maybe I'll do that on stream one day, I'll put a blindfold on, and I'll try and paint a Space Marine with a blindfold on, because I bet I could do it. I bet anyone who paints Space Marines on the regular, and has done so for a long time, could be fairly accomplished at painting a Space Marine blindfolded. I'm not saying he's going to be good. I'm going to say he's painted. Big difference there. Like, what did I say? So the difference between a painted model and putting paint on a model. Anyone can put paint on a model. Claiming that your model is painted. You gotta come correct. You gotta come correct if you're gonna say your model's painted. What is it? 3 colors? Standard 3 colors, and it must be based. Is that codified somewhere? I thought Games Workshop codified painted somewhere in 9th edition, because they actually give you victory points for playing fully painted now, which is something that they should have been doing. Regardless, the rule used to be you played fully painted. The rule used to be that if you wanted to go into a Games Workshop store and play with an army in that store, your army had to be fully painted. And they changed that sometime in the mid-2000s. I'm not sure the exact year. I want to say like 2003, 2004, maybe around there. Probably around the time that Lord of the Rings was the thing, right? And that was a way to make the hobby more accessible. And I think it was largely successful, but for us old schools who sort of like grew up with the idea that you play fully painted, and if your models aren't painted, they shouldn't be on the table, it kind of irked some of us. It certainly irked me at first, because I realized, because it made gatekeeping that much harder for me. But no, like seriously, being able to go down to Games Workshop with a 1,000-point army and play on a little 4x4 table, play some 40k, was a privilege, and it was a privilege that was rewarded for having a fully painted army. And they changed that, and that's fine. That opened up the hobby to people, so it was a business decision on their end, which means that they were able to stay in business, which means that they were able to be successful and profitable, which means that they were able to attract more customers, which means that the hobby grew, which means eventually I would have more people to play with. The question is, are they the type of people you want to play with, because they play with unpainted armies, and they play with so now I'm adding in my flesh here. So it again, you start to feel like a gatekeeper if you're too critical of that sort of a move, but at the same time, you can't help but feel like the hobby experience is a little bit lessened by people who don't take the hobby, don't consider the hobby the same way I do, or don't. I mean, it's totally selfish and totally, it may not be reasonable. It's still slaves to darkness. Thanks. Yeah, but that's just, I don't know. That's just me, man. And today, if I went to go play somewhere, which I don't, but if I did, and the person put down a whole bunch of stuff and it was all unpainted, I wouldn't like chide them for it. I might say, "Oh, you got a lot of work to do on your army," right? I'd still play them. But to me, nothing looks better than fully painted armies on a table with fully painted terrain. And that's just the way I grew up, the way I came up in whatever little community I was part of here. I mean, obviously, when it was just me and my buddy, playing 40k on his kitchen table, there may be a few models on there that weren't painted, but in general the idea was that we both agreed, like you can't say that that's something that's in your army really until it's painted, right? Obviously back then we played a lot more because we had the time to, because we were much younger and didn't have all the responsibilities of witch nail and whatnot. So you can see I've now gone in and I'm starting to add in my flesh highlights. So So Inquisitor Savak says, yeah, I got to figure out what you want from the game. If you need painted, play painted, or at least in progress. Yeah, and that's ultimately what it is that at the end of the day, it is your hobby, and as long as you're hobbying in a way that's making you feel good about it, then don't listen to what an old grognard like me has to say, right? Like, I don't know the way. I know the way that was for me, but I don't pretend to know the way. I can certainly impart some wisdom, and I hope I can, be a mentor and a supporter. I think I once said on a podcast with Ash, we were talking about the concept of being the hobby hero and how every really good gaming community, gaming store needs those hobby heroes. And this is some Games Workshop sales philosophy, really, is what it is, because he's ex Games Workshop, and I've been fired by Games Workshop twice. So it's more about, sorry, I don't even know if you can see me painting the hand here. It's about people making it their own hobby, right? Like doing what makes them feel good, and that's why when someone asks, well, what should I paint? Well, what do you want to paint, right? Quinn can attest to this when we worked together, and someone would come in to the store and be looking for, I want to get into miniature painting, but I don't know what to do. Well, what you do is you look at all the models we have on the wall, and you find something that you go, I want to paint that, and that's where you start, right? Like, don't buy something that you have no real strong interest in actually painting, but you feel obligated to because it's the thing you need, like starting an army, right? I want to play 40K, but I don't really want to play Space Marines, but Space Marines are in the starter set. So I'm going to do Space Marines. You'll never paint that army. You'll never paint those Space Marines because it'll feel like an obligation to, right? So my biggest piece of advice is make your hobby yours, right? If your hobby is less painting and more just playing games, then who am I to say that's, not cool, right? If your hobby is showing up with the latest meta that you pulled off the internet, off some Reddit group that said this list is unbeatable, or what do they call them, net lists, right? Sort of, you figure out what the net list meta is. And I know that GW launched something called Meta Watch, which is apparently going to be their observations of the competitive gaming scene, and that'll be interesting to see what happens there, because there's a lot of people who are very invested in that. There's a lot of people who are invested in the competitive aspect of the game, and I wish them all the best, and I hope that they enjoy the games that they play. They just probably won't be games that I'll be playing with them, right? If you play a game with me, the last thing on my mind is taking it seriously and letting the game really stress me out, which is probably why I'm so good at playing with orcs, because they do best when you play like an orc. They do best when you throw caution to the wind, right? So I'm just getting his upper lip here a little bit. Sorry, I gotta paint on the dot, or else who knows what you guys are seeing. Look at that little orky face. Oh, he's so adorable, as my daughter would say. So, I mean, I paint models for fun. It just happens that the models I enjoy painting for fun also tend to be the models that I paint for an army, right? Like this is a dream project for me, getting to paint these orcs. I'm over the moon thrilled, but at the same time, I recognize that that painting all these boys is the challenge, right? Like that's I said it on the other day's show, that's what I call breaking the back of the army, right? Is getting the bulk of your core troops done, and then you can start you can start in on the silly fun stuff, right? And the silly fun stuff is like finishing the commissar and painting my knobs of my HQ, painting my Scorcha, which is what I actually want to do after I finish the commissar and after I finish these 20 boys. This is what I want to paint next. I want to paint the Scorcha because it's a really cool kit. And it's going to be for my blood axes because these guys love to burn. They're the burninators, man. So that's the other theme of this army is going to have, is that most of my special weapons are heat-based. So I've got the Scorcha, I've got flamers, I've got some plasma guns, but I have to figure out how to get those into the army. That's a challenge. Legally, I mean, I can just give guys plasma guns and be like, they have plasma guns and 5 points, right? Like, it doesn't matter. But in order to actually figure out how you can potentially roll them up on the list, because I do want to kind of do some strict army building because it's fun. Because like I said, with Rogue Trader, you're making a lot of random rolls and hoping that you get what you want. You don't have to play that way, but that's kind of the way that the game is set up to be played. Okay, so what does Quinn here say? It's so true. It's much more tedious to paint something you aren't visually drawn to. Oh, exactly. Right, which is why for me doing commission work, probably, I mean, for me it's more than just not being drawn to something. For me it's knowing that I'm painting. I've only ever really painted for myself. So unless it's something that I want to paint, and unless it's something that someone is going to compensate me, what I feel, right? Like, will I feel that the compensation that I would receive would be worth the effort? So I kind of wish I could, because I could probably make money at it. I just don't necessarily know if I want to paint for anyone else other than myself. I'm kind of envious of people who can do that. Because I have so much stuff that I want to paint myself, and after being in this hobby for over 30 years, the fact that there are still models out there that I'm excited to paint for myself, I guess is a testament to just how much enthusiasm I do have for this hobby. And now I get to sit here and share this all with you guys. So this is kind of it's funny because when I was prepping these guys, I was like, oh, I should really be doing this on stream, so these guys can see. Because now I'm starting to feel like all my painting I should just be streaming, even if it's not scheduled. Just, you know, because when I sat down to paint in the middle of the night, I could just turn the cameras on and stream for, you know, around 10 p.m. till midnight or something, when I finally decide to kick it. If I'm awake that long. Some days it's harder. Some days I just want to go to sleep. But I mean, so I was thinking about that. I was like, well, why am I not streaming this? And it was really because I was plotting out the colors. So I was putting all the green on them, and I figured you guys would be more interested in seeing me actually highlighting the green than base coating the green on, right? So how's that look? Do. Orc with a heavy bolter. I know, it's serious. Pardon me while I lick my brush. Orc with a heavy bolter. I know, it's really serious. Look at that bottom lip there. His chin. So yeah. That's about it. Doo-doo. And then his upper lip, we'll just get a bit in there. Job's a good one. grab another. Clean your brush every now and then. Mix your flesh tones. You can see it starting to dry up here. I did just fill this. What happened to all the water that was in it? It's all soaked up over here. Huh. The old this is the Army Painter wet palette. I have the old Privateer Press wet palette. I actually think I like the Privateer Press wet palette better. The parchment paper is different too. The parchment paper on this seems a bit more permeable than the parchment paper that comes with the that you use for the Privateer Press wet palette. I gave my kid my Privateer Press wet palette. I may switch back. I may give her this one. That Privateer Press one's been through a lot though. But this one, yeah, I don't know. It seems alright. It's probably just me trying to blame my equipment for my own incompetence. So what else is going on in the world? I don't know. I'm with you, Inquisitor Savak. I try and avoid watching the news. It's hard because even when I go onto YouTube, YouTube keeps trying to push that stuff on me. And it's like, and then you end up watching like one video, and then you go back to like your suggesteds, and YouTube is now suggesting like you watch, oh, you gotta watch this CNN thing, you gotta watch this Fox News thing, you gotta, and I'm like, I don't want to watch any of this. Leave me alone. Just let me watch something with orcs in it. Or let me watch someone playing Call of Duty, which seems to be my new, like, minor distraction, is watching people stream Call of Duty, a game I don't even play. I haven't played Call of Duty in years. So I'm not saying I don't have any sort of history with the game, but I never really played it. I was always like, I liked the Unreal games, man. And when you want to take it back, Unreal Tournament. 1999, 2000. That was my jam. I love playing Unreal. Nothing like a first-person shooter. Yeah, man, I'm using the PP1C. Ah! Here's my Privateer Press one. Oh man. So I gave it to my kid. It's actually covered in mildew right now, because it's but it's so much, been through so much. I don't know. This Army Painter one's not bad. I don't know. There's something about the parchment paper and the way that the sponge absorbs, and it's just different than I just have to get used to it, I guess. I'll try not to whistle. That's probably really annoying. I just don't have much to say right now. I just kind of want to paint. I like Thursdays. Thursday's a good day. I don't think I've ever had a bad Thursday. I like Thursdays because they're the day before Friday. I don't know what that means, but yeah, Thursdays and me have always had positive. Don't get me started. I think I was born on a Wednesday. Born on a Wednesday. Solomon Grundy. Born on a Monday. Hey, Jankmaster in the chat. Speaking of Army Painter, you use soft tones and light tone. I do. I use all the tones. Strong tone, light tone, soft tone, dark tone. Tone it up, for sure. They're great. They've changed, but they still do what I need them to do. I've adapted to them. I just realized that they are a little bit different than they used to be, but still they're the right shades for what I need. I mean, you can use GW washes. GW washes are perfectly fine too. Nuln Oil and Agrax Earthshade, and Seraphim Sepia, and Reichland Flesh Shade, and their colored shades are good too. I use the purple one. What was that, Nightshade? No, Druchii Violet. Yeah. So I'm a big proponent of washes, as you can see. I like to wash my models. There's another one. Flesh is done. The flesh is done. Jankmaster says, are the ones in the cans the same as the formerly different? Okay, so I think that is why they changed them. So it used to be the older versions of these that have the different packaging. They don't have the hex on them. Do I have an older version of them? Oh man, I got so much. Like, I stock up on this stuff. Like, I go over here, and I'm like, so this is all tone. This is my stockpile, and the stuff that's on the desk is the in-use ones. But I stockpiled it because they did change it, and I think that they changed it to be more glossy, so it'll be more like the lacquers that are in those tins. Because those tins, that's a lacquer in there. Like that's like a stain. You could use that on like restoration hardware or something. I don't know why I'm shaking that. I don't need it. So, but I think what they wanted to do is that they wanted they're tone matched to these, but these used to be flat and those always dried gloss. So I think they added a gloss agent to these to match them more with those, so you end up with more of a gloss. And you can see the sheen. Here, I'll show you. So here on him it's cured, and you can see the little bit of reflection, a little bit of a sheen off his skin. So that's the soft tone over that that meadow green that I'm using. So yeah, so that's sort of what you end up with. And it's fine as long as you put a sealer over top of it. It'll just flatten everything out for you. But if you're using those cans, that's for dipping, right? That's what it's supposed to be for. And that's like an old toy soldier painter's trick for doing like tons of shading real quick. I've never dipped a miniature in my life, but I've washed lots and lots of miniatures, so it's the same thing, right? I'm just not dipping. But you can, if you have like a whole bunch of stuff, you could dip it. I've seen some people do some pretty crazy things with dipping, like putting models on the head of putting them on like a clamp and then putting that clamp into a drill, and you dip it with the drill, and then you pull it out and you go and you put it inside a box and you zzzz, zzzz, you rev the drill a few times and all the excess will get pulled off of it, and then you just sit the model down and it will dry as if you had just washed it. It's to me it's like airbrushing. Yeah, I would love to airbrush miniatures. I used to airbrush model tanks back in the day. I've never airbrushed a miniature, but I would love to do it because some of the techniques that I've seen and some of the ways to get stuff done, like especially, I was going to do it for my Mantis Warriors. I was going to dry brush them, airbrush them, but then I sort of discovered this formulation that came with that worked with the Death Guard green, which GW makes in a spray. So I decided to do that instead because dry brush is a lot of setup, and I'm not a big setup guy. I'm a set it and forget it guy, right? Like my painting table is always my painting table unless I lift up this thing and put down my mat for doing my art shows on the weekend or something. But other than that, my painting table lives on my table, and it's always set up, and I can just sit down at any time, click the lights on, and start painting, right? And that's what I want. I want it to be as little prep time and as little cleanup as possible. When I want to stop painting, I want to stop painting. I want to clean off my brush and go about my business, right? I don't want to have to clean up my brush and then have to go and wash my airbrush and take it apart and stuff like that. Now, if there was a specific project that I was working on that I thought an airbrush would be ultimately faster and better, then I would do that. I own an airbrush. I bought an airbrush years ago. And I have a hood for it as well, so I can even airbrush here. I could set it up right here beside me on my daughter's desk. My hood with the vent and the vacuum vented out into my front yard here. And so maybe I will one day. I just have to find the project that's appropriate for it, right? So what do we got here? I couldn't find the dropper for light tone, so picked up a can. Was hoping to pour it to a dropper bottle. Yeah, I don't. I think it's too thick, and I think you would need. Well, I don't know. It depends what the medium, like what the medium is. It's some kind of lacquer. It's water soluble, so it's water based. You know, you're not dealing with like something that would require. Oh, I'm painting over here now. So yeah, I'm not sure how it would work on its own. It might work fine. I've never used it. I've seen a can get dropped before though, and explode, and spill, dip all over the floor. Oh, look at this little orc. There we go. And you can see like that's really all the highlighting they need. I'm gonna go bigger and better, and I'm going to do that in a minute. So I'm going to stop highlighting these guys after this guy, and we'll go over and we'll do de Commissar, and we'll give him that extra level of attention I was talking about in terms of getting him painted. I mean, a lot of people might not even go this far, you know, with the knuckles and but I think you're drawn to orcs' faces because they're so big, and because you're naturally your eyes are naturally drawn to a person's face when you encounter them. So it's always pays to put in that extra little bit of effort to make the faces look good. Because if the face doesn't look good, the rest of the model doesn't matter what the rest of the model looks like, right? Portrait of the ledges cut with water. Awesome! Some acrylic medium and perhaps a matte additive would help for sure. Look at that. That's what we like. We like the sharing of the wisdom and the knowledge in the chat. For sure. That's what we're all about here at the Eternal Chronicles. This guy's got a funny face. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. I think that's from Tim and Eric. Do-do-do-do. Something like that. This guy's gonna need some... When I go back over, like I'll see these, like the way that this guy's face is coming out right now, I realize that, because I go back over it afterwards, like after I've done the eyes and stuff, with the Reikland Flesh Shade, to sort of add some more definition to the face, so I reverse highlight that. Alright, so here we go. So let's take a look at the man, the legend here. Der Kommissar. So I'm going to take some of my meadow green. And this is mostly just straight meadow green. And so on the chin here, I'm going to kind of like feather it in. Keep feathering it like that. So I'm not going this way with the brush. I'm going down and I'm making little hashes. Right? Little hashes. Because what I want to do is I want to preserve that shading under the lip there and help create a transition to his chin that feels more natural, more like more fleshlight, more flesh-like. Okay. Oh, seriousness. In all seriousness now. So we'll grab some more of that green. And go here and we'll do the lip. Don't need to worry about too much green on the lip because the bottom lip's actually going to be quite flesh. It will be quite flesh tone. Yeah. And then the nose. Nosy nose. And then the other cheek over here. So finding basically where the cheek ends. And then just drawing paint across to help create a separation. And like I said, I will be going in again when I go in with the flesh wash to help really lock this down. And then I'm just going to get under his eyelid here, and then under the eyelid over here as well. Tip of the nose again. And now the upper lip. There we go. So now I'm going to dab a little bit of the golden skin in there. And we'll do that bottom lip. Cheekbones. Tip of his nose. Little piggy nose. Little piggy orc nose. Remember when orcs looked like pigs? There's an old Dungeons and Dragons piece of old Dungeons and Dragons artwork. And they're literally like boar men. They've got like pig faces with tusks. So I'm just going along the very bottom of the lip here. Lightly, so as to provide some nice definition there to the upper lip. And then what I can do is I can grab a little bit of the green, mix it down, and then just kind of mix it down like this. Which is again just to help it blend a bit better. And what you're doing is you're doing translucent layers, so everything you do underneath will show up above, kind of. There's that upper lip, looking good and orky. I'm going to add a little bit more flesh here, a little bit more flesh into my green, and I'm going to do this lower lip again. And especially along the cheekbones here. And again, when I go in with the flesh wash, I will add shadows in there to help me define it even better. And then I'm going to do the chin. But I'm going to start the chin this time right in the middle, where it would be the lightest, and I'm just going to add a little tiny bit of definition to the bottom of the chin there. And then just kind of pull it a little bit towards the jaw, like the back of the jaw here. And then it needs a little bit more. What metal did you use in the commissar there? Dig the shoulders and boots. That is the favorite, my favorite. It is Retributor armor, which I then washed with dark tone and a mix of dark tone and strong tone, and then kind of highlighted up from there. If you watch Friday's replay, the episode that got pulled down and then was subsequently reinstated after I removed the copywritten material from it, you can see me painting it and deciding on the gold, because yeah, that's I like that gold a lot, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna like it, but now seeing as the model is sort of coming together with the flesh and stuff, I really like it. So that's the commissar's face, more or less. I'll probably do one more level of highlights, and then I'll paint the eyes, and then I will paint the teeth, and then I will shadow it. I glaze the lip and do some flesh with the what's it called? Reichland flesh shade. So I just want to get the tip of the lip here. Because that's going to get washed. And then the very just tip here. Sorry, it's hard to see, but there you go. So there's his face. So let's do his arm here, and then that will be that. I need some more of my meadow green because I used it. Okay, so for the arm. So these plastic orc arms are kind of crappy. So these are the plastic orc arms that came with these kits. So they came in the blister with these models, where this was this sprue of orc arms, and they're not fantastic. I know that you can get aftermarket ones, and I may end up doing that when I get to sort of phase 2 of this project, which is the freebooters phase of this project, which will not be until 2021 probably. We'll see. We'll see how much I enjoy painting orcs over this month, and how much of a break I feel I need from painting orcs. Sorry, this is a hard get, but I've got to get the hand underneath here, so it's gonna be at a weird angle. Hopefully you can see that okay, because it's just a hard access to get in there for the fingers and the thumb and the palm. I'll add in some of our flesh here, and we'll do the elbow. Nice dry elbows, you know. They need to get one of those moisturizing squigs to take care of those orc dry elbows. So, yeah. So, and again, you can always tone things down if they seem to be too much. You can tone things down with translucent layers of your previous darker tone, right? So just going back in there over those knuckles with like the pure green to sort of cover that up helps greatly. Oh, it's 1 o'clock. Oh, I started early today. That's why I'm feeling like I'm coming to the end here. But no, this is the double wide. I'm going till at least 2 o'clock. I do have to pick up my kid from school today, so 2 o'clock will probably have to be the drop dead point for this particular stream to make up for yesterday's lack of a stream. Well, it wasn't my fault. It was the Sandblaster's fault. And I don't even blame the Sandblaster. It's just a machine. So there we go. It's pretty simple on the skin. I'm going to do his eyes now. Eyes is eyes is eyes. This is just a red. It's like a I think it's called pure red. As you can see, it's got a Reaper label on it, but who knows what that label says now. So I'm gonna drop down some of this red here. This red does not like to open for anyone. Pardon me. Always have a box of paper clips. Go to Staples, buy yourself. I bought a case of paper clips, so I'll never run out, because they're extremely useful for this sort of thing. If you use dropper bottles, you need paper clips. And we'll go with Lantern Yellow as our other. Typical Reaper label, yeah. Well, this one, you can still at least tell it says Lantern Yellow. Put a little drop down there. So got our red. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to get this tiny weedy little tiny brush. This is a 000 Winsor Newton Series 7. Not a miniature. This is one of the watercolor ones, so it's got the longer bit. So again, I'm just mixing. Really, at this point, I could just be using pure red. But it helps to make it a little bit brighter because I will be washing over it. Now I've got to figure out where his eyes are. And they're kind of hidden under that hat, so I don't really know. So I'm just going to kind of guess that they're like here. Sure. It's as good a place as any. And then on this side, I'm going to guess that it's like... And once you paint the eyes, the model really starts to come together. Alright, I'm actually going to add a bit more over here. Because again, the human brain is conditioned to make eye contact, right? So, eye contact. Painting the eyes on the model allows you to make eye contact with the model. I don't know. It's probably something there, right? So now I'm going to add just a little dap of this orangey yellow. That's a bit. That'll need some work to fix it up. But that's why I use the washes. Yes, because they help with cleanup. They help to hide your mistakes, to hide your sloppy brush strokes. There we go. So from far away, he's got eyes now, kinda. You guys can probably actually almost, you guys can probably see it better on the stream than I can see it with my naked eye. So hopefully I'm able to fix that up. And I'll, while I'm here, why not throw some red in here on these guys? Just paint some eyes for a bit here. Paint some orc eyes. Classic orc models need classic orc eyes. So. Painting eyes, the reason to never paint another human army. I used to be a lot better at painting eyes than I am now. I have photographic evidence of that. Yeah, I think it's just getting older. Painting human eyes. There's a trick to it. And I know the trick to it, and I use the trick to it. And it's still... it's always the challenge, but you know what? It's got to be done because again, it's to me it's like mission critical to have the eyes on a model painted, so that the observer, the looker, the onlooker can make eye contact. Like, look at this guy. This guy's brow is so close, like I literally just need to put in the essence of eyes, the hint of an eye. And even if that one's a little bit wonky, I'll fix it. I'll fix it with wash when I go in with the Reichland Flesh Shade. Painting orc eyes. That one got out of hand. It's always like one good eye and then one that's like a little wonky. Painting orc eyes. What eye trick? Share with the class. Okay, so the eye trick is, and I would have to paint a human eye to show you. Let's see. Whoa, here's a human. And here's a human that I painted the eyes on. And here's a human that you did the eye trick on. It's fortuitous that she's just sitting right there. That's the power of, she was at the Commissar Club. You know. So this is a Chris Fitzpatrick model. Great thing about Chris Fitzpatrick models, they've got huge eyes. Easy to paint. So the trick is you do the black. So the way that I did her eyes was I took black ink and put the black ink so that it fell into the eye recesses. So you can see here the black around the white, right? So you create that black. And then instead of... so what I did on these, there's two ways you can do it. You could then go in at the white and go dot dot on either side, essentially creating the pupil with the iris and the pupil by putting the white on either side. That's not what I did on this. I then went in, put a white streak across, right, just as if it was her eye, making sure that it's raised up so that the black that is surrounding it, because you want black all the way around the eye, right, generally, on a 28mm model for sure. And then you take the pupil and you just make a line and you connect. So if you do the pupil like a dot in the middle, right, where there's white all around it, you look like this. Like, so your model is always surprised, right? You want the black to go from the eyelash, the lower, and around, and then you want them to connect, right? So that's kind of what I did there with her. And this model was painted 20 years ago, roughly. She was painted for an Imperial Guard army, which I no longer own. And that Imperial Guard army would have been plastic Cadians. That army would have been painted 2003-ish, so 17, 18 years ago, probably, give or take. Yeah, 300 plus guard. Well, that's just it, right? So painting all those guard eyes, that's your way. That's your breaking the back, right? Like, you got to break the back of your army. You got to paint the eyes, right? Same thing with my orcs. I want to break the back of the army. I got to get all these orcs painted, which means I got to paint the eyes. Whites all around means the model is surprised, or means the model is Gowron. That's right. The greatest Klingon leader of the Klingon High Council. He was a Gowron of House Gowron. The Duras have no honor. All right. So I'm gonna break out the. I guess I should do the yellow on their eyes first. So let's get out our lantern yellow and just. You're just putting it in there so that it adds like a glint in the eye. That's what the yellow is. It makes the eye glow a little bit, makes the eye shine a little bit, gives you a little bit of that glint so that you feel like the orc is staring at you with his beady red eyes. Right? Just like that guy. One's good, the other one's not so good. This one still needs a little bit. There we go. So. And hopefully this is showing up on camera. Let me move to the center here so you can really see what I'm doing. See, I wonder if you guys can hear my fan. Because when I don't talk, that's all I can hear is my fan. And like I said, usually when I'm painting, I'm listening to music. When I'm on stream and I'm painting, I obviously can't listen to music. I can, but it would have to be music that I have permission to use. I do have some music I have permission to use. Yeah, maybe I'll paint. Maybe we'll see. And then there's like content-free music, but like that's not generally what I would listen to. Like today, what was my hiking music was Thin Lizzy. I love Thin Lizzy. Phil Lynott is like the coolest man on the planet. God rest his soul. If you don't believe me about Thin Lizzy, go and download Vagabonds of the Western World. Listen to that album. Then download Jailbreak and listen to that album. And then there's a live, like a collection of live performances. Who already did you? You should download and listen to that album. And if you're not a Thin Lizzy fan at that point, then there's really no helping you, is there? This is too much red and not enough orange now. It's all been polluted. It's all been polluted! I need just some lantern yellow. So, I can't hear the fan. Yay! That means that I can just leave it on. Like when I'm not talking and I look over at my levels. It's like negative 50 dB, so yeah, you probably shouldn't be able to hear that, but the mic's picking it up. It's just not putting it out, which is good. Yeah, alright. So, I've got to finish the flesh on the rest of all these orc boys here. Whoops, excuse me. So yeah, all these orc boys that are sitting there, I still got to finish their flesh. I got to get a new background because Quinn doesn't like it. I can't hear the fan. Maybe I can hear it. Well, if maybe you can hear it, I can live with maybe you can hear it. I don't want to turn it off. It's all the way over there. I don't want to get up. So yeah, so here's what we're going to do. A Reichland Flesh Shade, which I'm running out of. It's almost empty. It's a lot of wash. Use this quite a bit. And then I'm going to show you essentially what I do for their face. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the bottom lip. And that will go on fairly heavy. Probably should have painted his teeth first, but it's all good. Doesn't matter. They matter which way I do it. And then the under part of the lip, for sure, because I'm adding additional shadowing to it. And you can kind of see it totally changes the way that the lip interacts with the rest of the face. Then his nostrils, same sort of thing. I want to add that in there, and then I want to go underneath the cheekbones here with the flesh wash. And again, it's just to give that face a bit more definition, right? Because you're drawn to it. And then around the eyes, so he's got bags under his eyes, like yours truly has. I think that's why. And again, that helps darken up the eyes. So I'll have to go in and do something more with the eyes. And then I'm going to go across, really carefully across the tip of the nose here, because I just want to pick out a line, because literally his nose is touching the brim of his hat. So yeah, so there we go. And I might just a little bit coming down from the nose to just create a little bit more of definition, a little bit more transition of the orc flesh there. So there we go. Don't turn around, oh, oh, oh. Der Kommissar's in town, oh, oh, oh. Now, I normally don't do this on regular boys, but I might actually do this on the Kommissar here a bit. But actually use a little bit of the flesh wash to help tone the arm ever so slightly. And again, this is that sort of that little bit of extra that I would go into on a model such as this that's a character model as opposed to just being a rank and file guy. So how's that? How we looking here, eh? So the flesh is done, more or less. I need to do those boots, so I'm going to throw some wash down on those boots now. And I decided that I'm going to do the boots like paratrooper boots, so like maroon Dr. Martens, those red docs, those cherry red docs they called them. That's what we used to call them back in the days when we were wearing them, and when you could get beaten up by skinheads downtown for wearing the wrong colored boots, the wrong colored laces in your boots. Those are good old days, weren't they? So I'm using Seraphim Sepia to wash these with, because I think that will give me, and this leather that I did is a mix of the intense brown and the Army Painter leather brown. And he's got laces in these boots, so I'll have to figure out a color for these laces. But as opposed to using the can't really see. As opposed to using the like strong tone, dark tone mix that I would normally use for leather, I'm going to use this Seraphim Sepia and hope that that turns them a little bit more maroon. They're not quite as red as I would like them to be, but we'll see actually how it looks once it's dry. So there we go. Some boots. Boots, 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 boots. All right. And there's a few other things here and hither and dither on him. I'm going to get out my Citadel Contrast Wildwood. And I'm going to put a little bit of it on my wet palette. And a little bit of my spit. Excuse me. And then you see the handle on the axe here that I have actually painted off-white. It's actually that linen white, I believe. I'm just going to put this over top of it so it kind of looks like wood. Here we go. Now I need to add some, pardon me. Oh, yeah. Drop my brush. So I need to add some color to his ribbons here, his medals and stuff. So I'll probably do that with some contrast, and that's why I painted those white there, because I can just go in and add a little contrast here and there. Blues and yellows, I think. Maybe some red, blues, yellows, just to make those ribbons stand out. And then I've got to do some work on the metallics. You can see like his necklace here and this stuff down here. So I'm going to grab my Radiant Platinum Formula P3. So like I said, this is like a weird off silver. It's just like a silver, but it's got it almost feels like a pewter in a way. So I'm going to use that. I'll throw some of that down on my wet palette. And I'm going to gently pick out this chain with it, and then keep going and picking out this necklace that he's wearing, which almost looks like a Terminator honor. And then there's some little armor plates in there, like these little like armored discs down here, which I'll just ever so gently touch just to help bring them out a bit. You can kind of see how that looks. And then his belt, his Judas Priest belt here, with all the little studs on it that I washed. So I'm just going back over the top of it to just try and pick stuff out here, just so that it stands out. Alright, like so. And then we'll do the head of the axe. I don't think I washed that yet, so it doesn't really matter though. But we'll do the axe head. And we'll add some there to help that stand out. And I'm gonna have to wash that eventually anyways. Pardon my arm. Alright, so now I'm gonna take some of this and almost kind of like a dry brush, but not really a dry brush because it's more of a wet. And I'm just gonna go across the top of the bolter and across the top like this. Just gently flicking some paint on it. This is to help pick out the details, and then I can figure out what I want to do with those details once I see them picked out, right? Oops. Pardon me, boys. Is that the Chattanooga Choo-Choo? Track 29. Won't you give me a sign? There we go. Get those barrels. I didn't drill those barrels. I think they came that way from wherever. Yeah, Radiant Platinum is a great color. And again, I have no brand loyalty because, as you can see, I paint with... Today I've painted with Privateer, Army Painter, Reaper, and Secret Weapon. And did I use Vallejo today? Well, I used Citadel. I haven't used any Vallejo today, but there's plenty of Vallejo on my table here. No brand loyalty. You just find a color and you start using it, and you either like it or you don't like it. I have plenty of colors that I don't like that I don't generally use. I like to have them around just in case I need to do something bizarre or something that is sort of out of my wheelhouse. But generally, yeah. So I'm going to do his teeth because I think that's going to tie him together real nicely. And that'll be something we can close the stream out with today. So I'm going to use Army Painter Skeleton Bone. But I just as well could be using Tusk Ivory or some other color. But I'm just going to go with Army Painter Skeleton Bone because it's right here. And I picked it up. And again, it's an Army... It's Army Painters tend to be pretty thick. You can see it's quite goopy. So having it thinned out a bit, and it depends what it is that you want to do, right? Like, what do I want to do? Well, I want to paint teeth. So I want to take my brush, and I just gently want to drag it across the teeth like this. Right? I have, pardon me boys, at the Chattanooga Choo-Choo, but I have the joke version of it, which goes, pardon me boy, is that the cat that chewed your new shoes? I have no idea what that's from. I feel like that's a joke that would have been told to me. Probably a joke my mom told me. Anyways, so there's some teeth. Those look pretty good, but we're not done yet. So I'm going to wash those teeth, and I'm going to wash them with... No, not soft. Strong tone. Army Painter Quick Shade Strong Tone. Just a little tiny bit of it. Not too much. Make sure that because I'm painting pretty fast right here, so I'm just going to give it a few seconds, make sure that it's nice and dry. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a soupy mess on your hands. All right, and then we're just going to drop that wash in there, and it will further help pick out our teeth. And the darker the wash, the dirtier your orc's teeth are going to be. But you're going to clean that up anyways, because you're going to go back over it with that skeleton bone. Right? So, yep. Yep, there we go. Look at that. That's filthy, filthy teeth. But that's fine. We'll just let that dry. Pardon me, boy. Is that the cat that chewed your new shoes? Dr. Demento. Is that... It's possible, man. I listened to Dr. Demento when I was a kid. That was like my Sunday night. I listened to Dr. Demento. And when Dr. Demento was over, it was the Sunday Funnies, which was like stand-up comedy and stuff from like albums. I actually discovered as a kid, I discovered Monty Python through the Sunday Funnies because they would play like the entire side of a Monty Python album. And I didn't even know what the Flying Circus. I didn't know about the movies. My Monty Python was albums, and oftentimes the albums were the skits that they did on the Flying Circus, like Spam and things like that, but done for their album, so like re-recorded or reproduced for their album. So it's like Sunday Funnies, and they listened to like comedians, stand-up, and back then it was a lot of Bill Cosby, a lot of like Loudon Wainwright III and Emo Phillips, and who are those other 80s comics that would have been what's his name? The one-liner guy. The greatest one-liner guy of all time. Shit, I'm so sad. I saw him live too, and I can't remember his name. And he was in that Half-Baked movie. Stephen Wright. Stephen Wright had a pony. Yeah, so Stephen Wright as well. Those are sort of the comedy. So yeah, so it was like Dr. Demento, and I think Dr. Demento began at like 7 p.m. because the show ran for like 2 or 3 hours, and it would all be like crazy Dr. Demento. So that's where I learned Frank Zappa and Dweezil Zappa and Moon Unit Zappa and what's her name? The lady who did the blonde song, and she was in Earth Girls Are Easy. Shit, what was her name? Because she did the Homecoming Queen's Got a Gun. Everybody run, the Homecoming Queen's Got a Gun. Julie Brown? Not Downtown Julie Brown from MTV, but Julie Brown. I think it was Julie Brown. Yeah, so Dr. Demento was huge when I was a kid. And you don't get it up here anymore. I don't even know if he's on. I doubt he's even on the air anymore because it was from California, and it was all done through like Rhino Radio or something. But who listens to the radio anymore, right? We have the internet. And there's that Inquisition symbol again. I wonder what that could mean. The Inquisition's always watching. Look at this John Blanche. Gorgeous piece here. I love these goths with their horns. I love that banner with the giant like space alligator head on it. That's pretty awesome. And then this is a Paul... just absolutely stunning stuff. Anyways, I'm actually getting a little tired here. I guess starting the stream 45 minutes early. So I've now been live for 2 hours and 15 minutes. And I need to stretch, and I need to take a break from painting. But I'm going to take one last look at the Commissar, because I did say I wanted to finish him on today's stream. So let's see how we're doing there. Probably need to do a little bit on his eyes. I need to finish those boots, and then whatever's going on back here. I still don't know what that is. That could just be like the cover for his jacket. And I need to do his plate. And then I'm going to get, I've got decals, old orc decals, still in the blister. Hopefully, fingers crossed, hopefully those decals haven't dried out. Because decals do have a shelf life. And these decals are in a old orc blister that is pre-second edition. So they're like in a Rogue Trader blister. So I have some decal spray. I could, if I try some of them and they don't work and they're just completely kaput, I can try and restore them. I have a decal like top spray. So from like a decaling system, so I may be able to restore them. Fingers crossed. If not, I'm out $12 because the blister cost me $12. So if not, then I'm out $12 and I have to figure out another way to get classic ORK decals, which could mean a lot more work in terms of setup and printing. And I'm sure someone's got digital files out there somewhere for something that would work. But yeah, so that's the Commissar. I'm yawning, so that's telling me I need to go for my afternoon walk. So yeah, let's say that the stream is going to end in a few minutes here. It's 1:30. Vallejo decal softener. That might work. Like I said, I probably need to put the problem with the decal softener. Now I have better than decal softener. I have the OG stuff here, and these have labels on them from George's Trains, and George's Trains doesn't even exist anymore downtown where I bought these. But this one is almost empty. You can see it's got what left in it, a little tiny bit. This one's almost full, but this is the micro sole, so this is the solution. So this is the one that will really soften them. The micro set is a little bit less, but this is just industrial vinegar. Like if you open it up, it just smells like vinegar. It's vinegar. So we'll see what I can do. I'm pretty good at doing decals. I've had lots of years of experience doing decals, so I'm hoping that I can salvage them. And like I said, if not, then I'm out $12 and I have to figure out a different decaling solution for these guys because I'm shit at freehand. So I'm not going to do that. But I do want to put a nice big pair of axes on the back here on his plate. I also want to be able to add glyphs, ORK glyphs and ORK runes to other things, other models, stuff like that. Because these guys are obviously, they're pre-clan, so they don't have back plates, whereas the lore as written, like, but that shoulder pad's a great place to put a symbol. So the lore as written is that all orcs wear basically a back plate that denotes their household and their clan, right? So what house they're from and what clan their house is in. So that's kind of part of Orky culture. But these are pre-that models, so they're not really that way. So yeah. So I will leave you with the symbol of the Inquisition and some of that. And yeah, so take it easy. See you tomorrow. See you on the flippity floppity. 5 old Rogue Trader Harlequins here. Perhaps some more tons of the next gen metal ones though. Hey man, it all works. It's all good. Just paint and keep painting your models and keep your stick on the ice, which is what some guy told me once when I got hit by a car. I thought it was a weird analogy to make. He was like, yeah, I know you got hit by a car, but, you know, keep your stick on the ice. And I'm like, what the fuck does my stick being on the ice have to do with me getting hit by a car? Anyways, until tomorrow, same Ork time, same Ork channel. I'll see you on the flippity flop. This is Christian for the Eternal Chronicles signing off. Peace out.